morning and welcome to HIMSCon.ph 2019 because it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the flagship event of the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, we call HIMAP. Our speakers and our panelists, some of whom flew in just for this event, we thank you and we welcome you with all our heart.
So I would like to end it with take that challenge, help us grow this industry, keep doing what you're doing. We are what we are because of all of you, all your dedication, all your hard work, and all the great people that work for you. So once again, thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed the event. We did everything we could to make it good for you, and I think we did a pretty good job. So again, hats off, Vince. Thank you all.
This is the good life. Oh, oh, oh. This is the good life. Oh, oh, oh. Out in the sunshine, nothing but good times. This is the good life. This is the good life. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Cause we struck gold in the shining light, and it's all gonna be alright. This is the good life. Oh, oh, oh. This is the good life. Oh, oh, oh. Out in the sunshine, nothing but good times. This is the good life. This is the good life. Oh, 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 oh. 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 Oh, 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 oh.
Welcome to HIMAP, the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines. The healthcare industry is experiencing transformative change. The increasing demand and rising costs for healthcare-related services by an aging world population are driving all aspects of the healthcare industry to reevaluate existing and to innovate new processes and solutions to cost-effectively meet the growing needs. HIMAP is an integral part of this transformation. In an ever-expanding digital world, electronic protected health information is proving to be invaluable. This data is securely recorded, stored, and utilized by healthcare providers, payers, and pharmaceutical entities in a myriad of ways, from revenue cycle management aspects to clinical decision support services. Today's enhanced data analytics initiatives have contributed greatly to significant improvements in the quality and cost of care. Enterprising leaders across all industries recognize and for over a decade have capitalized on the capabilities that the Philippines provides. The combination of highly skilled and motivated workforce, competitive costs, strong government support, and a robust infrastructure have propelled the Philippines into the #1 destination in professional voice services to the world. At the heart of this successful growth is the Philippine Allied Health Professional. With an intrinsic culture of care and unparalleled clinically trained resources, the Philippines is the destination for access to a young, motivated workforce that adapts seamlessly into the digital age of information and utilization. Keeping up with the constantly evolving healthcare industry and capitalizing on all the benefits of technological advancements require a partner with proven industry expertise, innovative thinking, and access to properly trained personnel and a strong commitment to excellence. Members of HIMAP possess all these attributes and more. The Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines. We care like no other.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Global HIMS powered by PH, the Philippine HIMS BPM Forum focused on clinical research, pharma and life sciences, and innovative healthcare IT solutions. Before we start with today's webinar, we would like to remind you that for a more efficient platform management, everyone will be muted for the entire program with the exception of speakers and panelists. Should you have any comments or questions, we encourage you to share them through the chat function here on Zoom. We'd be happy to answer questions during the Q&A after the presentations. So before we proceed, please be reminded of the following webinar etiquette. Test your speakers so we can hear the speakers' voices very well and get the most out of this virtual experience. You can also check interactive plugins to engage the group. This can be in a form of Q&A or polls. If you need to raise something during the course of this webinar, raise your hand so our event host can address your concern. Once again, let's all observe a proper etiquette. We all want our delegates and guests to get the most out of this experience. Once again, welcome to the Global HIMS powered by PH. This is part 2, the Philippine HIMS BPM Forum focused on clinical research, pharma and life sciences, and innovative healthcare IT solutions. So as the COVID-19 pandemic takes place, the Philippines Health Information Management or HIM sector continues to grow beyond the usual voice, non-voice, and back offline services. Companies based in the Philippines are now offering HIM services as well as healthcare IT solutions related to telemedicine, revenue cycle management, and clinical determination service, to name a few. In this webinar, we'll be focusing on the clinical research, pharma and life sciences, and innovative healthcare IT solutions. So to formally welcome us to this morning's event, please welcome Asia's Chief of Staff of Alorica, Ms. Sarah Macan de Silva.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you're at today. But wherever you are, we're hoping that you're all safe and well. I'm Sarah Macan de Silva, and I'm ecstatic to be able to open the second part of our webinar series for Global HIMS powered by PH. Today, we've got some really, really great things lined up for everyone, where we've got a focus on Philippines HIMS BPM Forum focused on the clinical research, pharma and life sciences, and innovative healthcare IT solutions for you to really get to know more of the fantastic things that we do out of the Philippines. You can look forward to speakers who have been pioneers of the industry and truly get healthcare and its many complexities. And we've got testimonials lined up that you'll really get to know what it's like to do business out of the Philippines. That, of course, is going to be followed by our always riveting panel discussions and Q&A for the two topics that we'll be covering today. So we're very, very appreciative of your time today to join us, and we look forward to learning and interacting with everyone during our discussions today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah, for that warm welcome. So before we proceed with our presentations for today, we would like to introduce the Director for IIGB of the Department of Information and Communications Technology. In her 20 years in public service, she's so passionate about creating positive changes in the lives of Filipinos, most especially in the countryside, through the ICT industry development programs. This include bringing digital jobs related to the information technology, business process management sector to cities outside Metro Manila and capacitating rural talents to get into online freelancing. She also leads the DICT initiatives to move the Philippines towards becoming a global hub for high-value IT BPM services. She was recognized and awarded by the National ICT Confederation of the Philippines as a countryside development champion for dedicated work in implementing initiatives that promote countryside development. Recently, the DICT, through her bureau, in partnership with the Information Technology Business Process Association of the Philippines, launched the Digital Cities 2025, one of the flagship programs of the DICT in the new normal. So to give us your message, please welcome Director Emilu V. Delfin.
Thank you, Mr. Prabreyes, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to be part of today's event, the second of the HIMS International Webinar Series. I would like to greet all of the participants, our speakers, and panelists for today's webinar. On behalf of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, I would like to extend our congratulations to the main organizer of this event, the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, or HIMAP, led by the officers and board members. Thank you so much for making DICT a co-organizer of this event. As you may know, the DICT aims to help develop, promote, and help flourish the IT BPM sector through the innovations and constant collaboration with our key partners and stakeholders to ensure the sustainable growth of the Philippine ICT-enabled industries and guarantee the creation of jobs in our country. Our department's work also consists of equipping our workforce with the necessary skills needed to boost the competence of the IT BPM sector, which the healthcare information management services industry is a part of. In fact, one of the major initiatives of DICT for this year is the upskilling and reskilling of our IT BPM workforce. We are proud that the HIMS industry is one of the fastest growing sectors within the IT BPM sector. As of 2019, the industry has a total of 143,000 full-time employees and a revenue of $2.96 billion. It is projected to achieve a revenue growth range of 7.3% to 10.8% by 2022. One of the enabling factors is the very active and leadership role HIMAP plays in ensuring that the highest standard of HIMS services in the global market are met and sustained. The DICT, through its ICT Industry Development Bureau, continuously provides support for the HIMS industry through HIMAP, which includes marketing and promotion such as webinars like this, so we can continuously promote the industry to potential customers around the globe to maintain its global presence and to further develop new business areas. In today's program, we are happy to have with us our practitioners and professionals from the HIMS industry to speak about clinical research, pharma and life sciences, and innovative healthcare IT solutions. We hope that through this webinar, we can enhance the leadership position of the Philippines HIMS industry and to ensure the continuous promotion of the industry globally. We are one with the HIMAP in ensuring that our HIMS employees and companies continue to be given support. With this, we will continue to consult and work with the industry to produce relevant programs and initiatives and to successfully implement them with partner associations like HIMAP. This initiative today is just one of the several collaborative projects between DICT and HIMAP for this year. We and DICT will continue to improve, develop, and implement our plans and strategies to support the HIMS industry in line with our mandate. Together, we hope to grow the industry and reach the targets set forth for 2022 and beyond. So thank you once again, and may all of you have a productive day today.
Thank you very much, Director Emmy. And now let us proceed to our next So our first speaker has over 26 years of experience in the IT industry, a software R&D practitioner with a track record in implementing as well as managing successful innovative projects for the Japan market. He was also in charge of starting up their branch office in Western Japan, where he was a general manager for almost 5 years. He's a member of the board of directors in Advanced World Solutions Incorporated and is concurrently the vice president for innovation and development for Advanced World Systems. He heads all the software development team units of the company, comprising of 16 strategic business units with a total headcount of around 800 software professionals. He also oversees U.S. operations, as well as the company's Center for Innovation. He is a member of the Board of Trustees of HIMAP, and he heads the committee responsible for both local and international events participated by HIMAP, specifically to the United States. So to provide the overview of the PH healthcare industry with focus on innovative healthcare IT services and solutions, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vince Remo.
Yes, hello. Good morning to those who are in the Philippines. Good afternoon, good evening to those who are in the United States, or good day to everyone. So that it's safer to say good day, right? Because we don't know where you are, but wherever you are, we hope that today will be a productive day for you. And I would like to start my presentation related to IT in the healthcare industry. So let me just pull up my presentation. I hope you can see my slides now. All right, so my topic is about driving the healthcare business with IT solutions, and it's we are coming from the Philippines. Okay, we'd like to inform everyone. We'd like to extend our services, the information related to our services coming from the Philippines, and that's why we say that these IT solutions are really powered by PH, powered by companies located here in the Philippines. And well, as introduced, I come from a Japanese company, but we also have some operations in the United States. But for today, I'd be wearing the hat of HIMAP as part of our organization. I'm the vice president for this organization. And I'd like to start with a backgrounder that would make sense for all of us. At HIMAP, we have always looked at the U.S. market as one of our main partners in this in the healthcare business. And with that, what we have done a lot of initiatives. We've gone to outbound missions to the United States together with support from our government. As well as we have also done some webinars. We have attended a lot of webinars, and especially in the recent or last year, where there has been some limitations on travel, we've done a lot of webinars as well. So by doing that, well, what we have observed is this: the role of IT in healthcare has actually evolved, and right now in the recent years, what we have seen is a convergence of the healthcare industry with innovative solutions, meaning IT still is an enabler of the healthcare industry, but there has been some focus on the changes in the processes, or meaning the delivery care model has been improved or has been revolutionized by the presence of IT. So in this slide, I actually would like to say that there are several categories wherein the IT solutions would come into play. First, there'd be this legacy IT services. So there has been systems already available in the healthcare industry. Actually, this is worldwide, but with special focus on the U.S. market. We have seen that there has been, in the recent years, overhaul of the architecture, or new applications being developed, or developed and tested for that matter, as well as, since these are already legacy systems, they require maintenance and they require support. So that's where the Philippines come in. For the maintenance and support tasks that are being given to the Philippine-based companies, they actually ensure that the systems are always up and running, even the legacy systems. And then there's this digital healthcare solutions. After the move on the digitalization and digitization of the healthcare in the United States, there's been a lot of move towards mobile and cloud solutions, as well as data science and analytics. So you have seen the move on analyzing everything, making sure that the quality of care is always there. And then there's still this other healthcare IT solutions. Telemedicine has been there for a while, and it's gaining popularity these days. Now, let's look at the. This is I borrowed this slide from the previous presentation in the first leg, and I'd like to focus on the technology side of things. This is what the Philippine-based companies are offering as of this time. We have a lot of things, but I highlighted those in red. The ones in red are actually the ones that have been gaining traction in the recent years. In particular, last year, because of the pandemic, these items in red, telemedicine, mobile healthcare, collaboration platform, and the like, are really the ones that are gaining more and more traction or attention within the healthcare industry. So let me give you some examples of the things that we have done from the Philippines offered to the US market in the form of either a solution itself or a service and a solution combined. So let me just go through them very, very quickly. Actually, with data analytics alone, it's not a simple solution. It's actually a portfolio by itself. So there's been a lot of information that's available. Information, raw data, if I may say. Those are complex, unstructured, meaning free-flowing sentences, social media posts, and whatnot, Twitter posts for that matter. And those are valuable information, valuable data, but we have to make sense of it. So that's where data analytics come in. In the area of healthcare alone, we have looked at customer intelligence, predictive analytics, and even performance optimization within the, let's say, within the providers, within the hospitals, within the clinics. And these are actually coming from data. Okay? In terms of core capability, we have data management, analysis, and visualization. So coming from raw data, that if you look at it, it's just raw data, but you make sense of the data by actually analyzing it and making it visual in the form of graphs, in the form of different charts. That would make sense. And given those data, given those information, you would now be able to derive insights related to sentiments of your patients, sentiments of the doctors, for example, or quality of the care delivery, for example, readmission rates, and then risks as well. And on the prescription, it's things like that. So this is just an overview of the things that can be done. Now, companies in the Philippines, okay, are involved in some or most of the processes that's being done in order for the clinics or for the providers and even the payers to understand how the market is moving. And analytics is playing a key role to that. And the Philippines is actually participating or actually supporting the healthcare industry along that line. So from complex unstructured data to actionable insights, you get it from Philippine-based companies. Another one is this one. This is a collaboration platform. Actually, this is actually a project of one of the companies, one of the member companies of HIMAP, wherein they as a support to an organization providing manpower to hospitals, nurses to hospitals, they developed a collaboration platform wherein nurses, registered nurses in the US or caregivers for that matter, would do a self-registration in an app, okay, in a mobile app, and then the manpower agency would do some credentialing. Now the hospitals and long-term care facilities would actually place orders, and there would be matching within this collaboration platform. And once the nurses, the schedule, the credentials are matched, then there would be some services offered from the nurse directly to the hospitals or the long-term care facilities. And then, of course, the role of the manpower agency would be to make sure that employment is there, that billing is properly done, that the service is provided to the hospitals or the providers, and then later on, of course, the billing and the payment and the handing out of the salary to these nurses. So it's a simple platform, cloud-based platform, and yet it actually helped improve the efficiency and, of course, the quality of care for these providers. And there are other things like mobile applications. And in the last year, because of the pandemic, there are new and emerging mobile applications, particularly for mobile and remote workers. There's contact tracing, quarantine management, employee or frontliner health check and monitoring, as well as, well, we have the swab test, result monitoring, vaccination monitoring is coming up. And of course, even the workflows, because a lot of people are now working from homes, then these are the things that can be done through mobile applications. Of course, this is not limited to healthcare, but healthcare is actually one of the industries wherein this is playing a big part of. So I'm only given a few minutes for this presentation. So this is just an overview of why we can do this in the Philippines. Okay? First, there are four key items here, and I have included the keyword global because our services, our solutions are actually global in nature. And we have these four major items that we think would be the characteristics. This is how we would characterize the services and solutions being offered in the Philippines. We do it with global level communication skills. We all know the English language proficiency of the Filipinos. And with that, actually, we can get involved in IP communities, like open source communities, or yeah, we have access to technologies, easy access to technology because of the language. And then we also have the global workforce which can actually adapt to any culture. We have assigned people outside the country, and it doesn't matter. Actually, in the Philippines, around 10% of the population work overseas. Okay, in terms of IT, we have over 80,000 graduates of IT courses annually. This is data coming from this is government data which I picked up. And then we have flexible engagement models. You can do an FTE based, you can do project based. Name it, we can give it as a service to you. Global best practices, partnerships and affiliations with the big names, Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle. For RPA, we have UiPath and Blue Prism partners here. We have a lot of certifications, and we have the presence of global multinational corporations here in the country related to healthcare even. And then in terms of location, well, it's a good location to do business in. It's due to the proximity within Asia or the ASEAN, and the flexible work setup, 24/7, follow the sun. And right now, we're doing work from home. So infrastructure-wise, we can see that it has been improving over the years. And now, actually, during the pandemic last year, we have had a lot of our workers shifting from working in the office to working from home in a matter of 1 or 2 weeks' time. So it goes without saying that the IT services and solutions in the Philippines are of a global mindset. So that's the overview of the things that you can do or you can explore in the Philippines. And I think my time is up, so I'd like to end my presentation with this slide. And I'd be happy to answer your questions in the forum or in the panel discussion that we will have later. So thank you very much and good day to all.
Thank you very much, Sir Vince. It's a very informative talk, and I'm sure we've learned a lot. Now, to provide us with a personal testimonial on how their healthcare IT business flourished in the Philippines using local talents, our next speaker is the co-founder and CEO of DICT Innovations, and he believes in sustainable business practices to generate measurable social and environmental impact alongside financial results. He has over 30 years of investment banking and entrepreneurial expertise, and since the founding of DICT Innovations in 1996, the company has grown into a global enterprise with 18 operating companies, 3,800 employees, and presence in 16 countries across 6 continents. Today, DICT Innovations is one of the leading players in ESG assurance, promoting sustainable practices combined with technology and data management to Fortune 1000 companies. The company's client portfolio covers various industries and practices, which includes healthcare, education, manufacturing, apparel, among others. As an advocate of sustainability, he's also been appointed as business sector representative to the UN Environmental Program. He also leads various initiatives in UN Global Compact and other United Nations agencies. He also served as a former member of the Board of Trustees of HIMAP and was awarded the Executive Leadership Award by the Asia CEO Forum in 2013 and the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation Visionary Award in 2014. Let us all welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the CEO of ATEC Innovations, Mr. James Donovan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and to speak at this webinar. To all of our honored guests, panelists, participants tuned in around the world, I guess I've been asked to do a testimony, and I'd like to start things off with healthcare. The second part of that word, care. I think the Philippines will show again and again that it exceeds expectations and delivers a high level of care. And in this time of in the time of COVID, in the time of this pandemic, I think we're underplaying the fact that every resource that we staff in the Philippines that helps deliver a higher level of care allows the frontliners to be redeployed. And in this critical time, it really makes a difference. So I think our role is so much bigger. I believe in profit, so let me just put that out there. I am a capitalist before we get into this presentation, but I also think that we have a greater good. The Philippines has a greater impact to be able to deliver these services and capabilities in this time where frontliners could be redeployed of our clients into critical frontline care. So with that, appreciate being here, and somebody's operating my slides, so bear with me. Maybe the next slide, please. So let me just give a little bit of a background and history on the company. ADEC was founded by Carol Esquerra and myself, both of us serial entrepreneurs. ADEC has evolved into an assurance solution company where we focus on societal issues, environment, social, and governance. And with that, we've evolved a series of businesses. Actually, ADEC was founded in Alabang. And since we really didn't think anybody would understand on the global stage where Alabang was, we developed the name American Data Exchange Corporation, which frankly, people then truncated and it became ADEC. So we trace our roots back, really starting here in the Philippines, and we're now 25 years young. Today, I'm very proud to say that as a Philippine-grown company, we've expanded to 16 countries. And this is important because I don't think enough people here maybe on this call or around the world don't understand that so much high quality, high capability services are actually pieces or entire solutions are delivered from the Philippines. So we took that model and developed businesses around the world. So today we're a group of over 3,800 professionals, and we provide services in professional consulting, technology, SaaS, DAS, workforce solutions, and supporting impact capital. I'm not sure I can do a better job than Vince did in the previous presentation. There is a lot going on in the Philippines, and you don't have to dig down too far to see that the level of IT, the level of capability is really world-class. So a little bit about ourselves. We provide services to the UN, it was touched on, member states, countries, coalitions, NGOs, business enterprises. And what do we do for them? We very simply put, we help find data, manage, to find it, give insight, and then hopefully help them make better decisions. So our healthcare division was actually a natural outcrop of this long journey. So next slide, please. Enough about the ADEC commercial. In relationship to this webinar in specific, I was asked to speak about the ADEC business lines dedicated to health information. Aptly, we call it ADEC Innovations Healthcare. And frankly, leveraging the Philippine outsourcing landscape, we were able to deliver our services, which some of them revolve around medical management, revenue cycle, digital health management. And based upon client evaluations, because frankly, as a business, that's what matters. What do our clients say? What matters to them? And their evaluation, shows up to a 40% reduction in labor cost that the Philippines was able to deliver on guaranteed turnaround times, and our charting accuracy was above onshore standards. So at the end of the day, it's also what do we deliver? And I'm trying to say, if any of you are looking at the Philippines or considering it, the capability is here. Next slide, please. The story is in the numbers. For us in this division, we actually conduct over 340,000 clinical utilization reviews a year, 120,000 billing claims, 54,000, 18,000 patient education and outreach. Now, this is just some of the things that ADEC does, but I want to give some real tangible, and I'm happy to answer in the Q&A. Please ask some of the questions of what you think can be done here. It's not that we're doing it all, but within the Philippines, the capability exists, whether it's clinical trial research or supporting all aspects of some of the shared services or captured providers. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, ADEC proudly traces its roots in business culture to the Philippines. And it's no surprise that our leading delivery centers are still based out of the Philippines. So people have asked me around the world, why the Philippines? Precisely because the Philippine advantage is in one word: people. It's no great surprise that Filipinos are. You can go anywhere in the world, and most hospitals, the leading amount of people that they bring in are Filipinos, not just because of their technical expertise, because of that word care. And I just want to let you know that this isn't. I'm not being paid for this testimony. The Philippines' key word and key capability is its people. Now, I personally have been really grateful to be part of and to see the Philippines grow over the years to be a leader in the IT BPM sector. And for that, as a business, we've benefited, but I personally have just, it's been really a great journey to see where the company or where the country has come. It remains, back to really, bottom line business, it remains one of the best value propositions globally. And to have one of the lowest cost of operational and labor costs around the world, yet provides the highest output. So why utilize Philippine talents and skills? To the point, it makes good business sense. The Philippine demographics is young, highly educated, the highly skilled, ready, willing to work. And that is key. We operate in a lot of different countries around the world that have young demographics, but sometimes just culturally, it doesn't necessarily align. The Philippines exceeds at the capability of bringing young, bright people willing to roll up their sleeves. So the other aspect is, I'd like to mention, being young, they're also exposed to the use and leveraging of technology. And that is so important in today's capability world where we have to deliver solutions through innovative technology. And I'd like to add one aspect that particularly was a success to ADEC, that we utilize Philippine talent globally in our own growth story to not only deploy to our clients' businesses, but frankly to our own growth story around the globe. So it's not just about the delivery, but it's the management capability you can find in the Philippines. So lastly, in terms of human resource, the Philippines, as was mentioned by Vince, we have 200,000 registered nurses with 12,000 new licensees coming online annually. So the resource is there, the technology is there. It's really for you to figure out how to use those resources. Next slide, please. So I'd wish to convey in my short presentation, the Philippines is an ideal location to set up your healthcare captive, shared service, or third party, or look for a third party outsourcing destination. I'd encourage any questions to be sent to the association, and I hope to be able to answer any of the questions in the Q&A. ADEC Innovations Healthcare, I personally and as a company stand as testament that you will find success in the Philippines. From our perspective, our company has ultimately benefited and has evolved to be what we call the ADEC advantage, primarily because of this Philippine talent on delivery and management. In the healthcare sector, which is made up of strong, highly trained, flexible resources capability, Philippine talents undergo a rigorous selection and onboarding procedure and are flexible. I can't say enough about the flexibility. It's not just about timing, but workload adjustments that allow us to adjust to clients' ever-changing needs. Ben spoke about innovative technology. There's a lot going on here, not just in the country, but around the world in how healthcare is being reimagined. And that is so important for us to stay in charge with. Specific industry expertise, we have it here, whether it's specific to pharma or clinical research or delivering through payers or the capabilities here in the Philippines. Now, from an ADEC perspective, we also work with technology that delivers and enables sort of the seamless, efficient delivery of services. It's a given. If you don't come with that today, you're just not at the table. To be able to address the client's specific needs and supplement their existing onshore capabilities, which again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, it's so important that in this time of COVID, that we free up capabilities so that more of this administration work, other solutions can be outsourced to the Philippines, and frontliners can be redeployed to take care of critical healthcare delivery. I'd like to touch on one aspect also of global compliance standards. There's an ever-rising data privacy regulations, cybersecurity. We're very much aware, as we all are on this call, but what I don't think some of the people outside the country would not realize that the Philippine government and the private sector here has really worked hand in hand to continue to raise awareness and build local capability to meet the needs of data privacy requirements coming out of Europe, America, different countries, and also combat the rising tide of cybersecurity. None of this is there's not a silver bullet. It is always a journey, but I want to let you know that the Philippine government and the private sector has really come together and worked hand in hand on not only the regulatory framework, but the awareness programs and making sure that the industry is exceeding international capabilities. So I was given a brief time, so I just want to say in closing, I can't say enough about the Philippines, obviously, but in 25 years of experience, what makes the ADEC advantage successful over the years? It's the unique Philippine outsourcing landscape that's been developed through the years that has allowed us to be the company we are today. 25 years young, still growing, and proudly delivering world-class solutions for clients with the best of the Philippine capability. In closing, I'd like to thank everybody for allowing me to speak today and to address hopefully your questions in the Q&A. And if there are any questions that come up later, please direct them to HIMAP, and they'll be directed to the right resource to be able to get you that answer. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. James Donovan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, we will now proceed with the next part of our program, which is the panel discussion of the PH-powered IT solutions driving the healthcare business. So to moderate our discussion, let's welcome the Senior Director of Operations at IQVIA, responsible for mature markets and developed countries in the Asia Pacific, and the country head of IQVIA Solutions Operations Center of the Philippines. He's also serving as the president and chairman. He's also the member of the board of trustees of the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines as the communications chair. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our moderator for our panel discussion, Mr. Carlo Panti.
Good day to everyone, and good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I hope everybody's doing well and staying healthy. And it's my privilege to be here and be part of this webinar. Global HIMS powered by PH. We're on our second leg of this forum, and today we're focusing on the clinical research part, pharma, life sciences, and innovative healthcare IT solutions. So we saw some very interesting presentation from our speakers as Vince highlighted the healthcare IT solutions being provided in the Philippines, while Jim showcased ADEC Innovation's secret to success operating in the region. And just like you, I would sure want to know some more, which is why we'll be shifting to this panel discussion where you can ask your questions and interact with us using the Q&A interface. In fact, I think there's already one question there. So let's call our two esteemed leaders to share their thoughts and have a dialogue with us, shall we? So let me start with you, Jim. You highlighted what ADEC Innovations is doing in the Philippines on medical management, revenue cycle management, and how critical this team is to your organization. But can you tell us a bit more about your journey and how you established and grew your team in the Philippines? I actually didn't realize you started here in Alabang.
Yes, yes. I guess it's first of all, we're a Philippine company, so it's ultimately very critical. We started all of our businesses from the Philippines, and then reached out into the marketplace. I think that the Philippines' capability to provide world-class services and partnering with the clients has shown not just in the overall BPO market, which is so much more than, you know, the original success in the call center side was only half the story. There is so much more to it, and health information is absolutely a shining star. So our personal journey was really about the greater good of how we could take capabilities and free up resources in the US and Europe to be able to focus on frontline capability. So ADEC focuses typically on, you know, sort of a problem and then reverse engineers into how we can deliver a solution to it.
Actually, I love what you said about the company's main focus, which is really to work on the greater good. And you mentioned earlier in your presentation that you really started in the Philippines because of the care that the Filipinos culturally provide. So it's very admirable how you tried solving that with this level of care from the Philippines. I think there are best practices that, you know, other companies can learn from you in setting up their centers, prospective centers in the Philippines. Any advice or recommendations you would like to give them as they start their journey here?
Absolutely. You know, the time of COVID, as you can tell, I probably have a little bit too much gray hair now. You know, there was a certain mindset years ago that said you had to have a Metro Manila site and then eventually go to the provinces. But frankly, COVID has totally turned that upside down, and a large portion of everyone works from home. And that model was turned on its head. And to the benefit of even the clients around the world are doing the same thing. So it opened up the possibility of what couldn't be done. So I would say explore equally the second cities. The resources are there. Metro Manila is a great place also, but there's also wonderful resources. And frankly, the model has turned a bit where you can have a smaller real estate footprint, but actually supporting a much broader reach into the local market and providing jobs and capability. So we also have provincial sites. I'm not selling ADEC. I'm just saying through the years we've been able to, you know, utilize that capability. But frankly, we came from that old fashioned. We started in Metro Manila, started in Alabang, and thought, okay, all clients want to come here first. But that model has been turned upside down, and the capabilities are everywhere. Vince, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess you're right. The pandemic has really turned it around, and then I think right now there's a lot of companies wherein only 10 or 20% of their staff work from the office, and everybody's working from home, and the delivery is still there, the quality is still there. So um, it's really booming up.
It's
Right,
actually
Carlo?
a great segue. There was that question in the Q&A interface. Actually, it was more what your recommendation will be to the countryside cities to attract companies to set up shop there with their many medical talents. So this time it's the recommendation for the cities. What would you recommend for them to attract more of these clients to set up in their cities?
You know, cities have a very unique value proposition that they're having to evolve as the world becomes more competitive. Cities have to polish their presentation to the world of live, work, play, and healthcare solutions are just a portion of that. To be able to show to the world that a particular city has the resources and it's a great place to live, and to be able to have interconnectivity so that they can work remotely or come to the office, and that they have other things that there's a life work balance. And I'd like to also point out that, and Vince touched on this, efficiency is actually improved. And I'm not quite sure that, now that sounds like a good thing from a client perspective, but the life work balance, because of the work at home, really needs to be addressed, because there's a certain point you have to manage your resources and your people, that we have to think about, what does this look like if this is our environment for the next few years? Or what do we prepare that our model may never go back? It might always be somehow 50-50, maybe, if even things go back to normal, I guess we may have 50% working from home. What does that look like for us to care for the people, so that they're not just, maybe their efficiency's gone up, but they're burning out? So I think we need to think of a balanced model.
I love what you said about establishing that your location can provide that live, work, play environment for the team. Thank you, Jim. Going to Vince. I think you have very interesting presentation about the IT, healthcare IT solutions. But is it worthwhile testing the waters first, so to speak, and start with legacy stuff first? Or can you recommend to our audience to explore going straight to the advanced digital healthcare solutions like RPA, data science analytics, AI, and blockchain? Can you share with us how mature these innovative IT solutions are in the Philippines?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's really a question of where do we begin, and how do we start this up? But actually, it's instead of testing the waters, I guess the answer would be where the need is. Like for example, in most of the clients that we have encountered, it's more of what's their current challenge, what's affecting their business, what do they want to improve on. Those are the things that are always at the back of the mind of the executives of our clients. So the point really there is there could be no specific area wherein you want to test the waters, but actually what the Philippine-based companies are doing right now are doing some technology consulting, perhaps. No? So, for example, this is the need of the client. Now, these are the technologies that these Filipino companies have. If you match them and you mix and match, and those would be, the real needs for the IT side would come out based on the needs of the client, and that's where we start. No, because even if we start with something that is very very simple because of risk, you want to manage the risk and you started something simple, it won't give value to the organization if it doesn't solve your most pressing issues, right? So I guess that's where we want to start, depending on the need, and then match it with the technology based on the technology consulting capabilities of the companies here in the Philippines.
And it's really finding that right mix and match.
Right.
And I think to give our audience more confidence, maybe you can talk about how big the market is, how many players do we have, and how mature the the environment is here?
Well, in the Philippines, I'm not gonna say that this for the healthcare. This is just this is the whole picture, but let me give a background that in the Philippines there are several industry organizations, and there is a specific industry organization for software alone. There's a specific industry organization for analytics alone. So you can see that the resource pool is there. The companies are challenging these new technology areas, and healthcare is benefiting as one of the industries wherein these companies would like to service them into. Now, for example, I mentioned in my presentation, there's 80,000 IT graduates every year in the Philippines. And these people are really technology hungry people. And actually, that 80,000 is only IT related. If you include the engineering graduates and the science graduates, maybe it could double, right? So what I'm saying is the companies here in the Philippines are currently, or still right now, are growing up their resource base, growing up their technology base, and then at the same time matching it again. I'm going back to matching it with the needs of the clients. So the market is growing, okay, in terms of the real, I mean, the trend in the world, the global trend is being addressed, and it's really growing rapidly. Even in our company alone, we have hired, we started with just, maybe when we started our company, it's just around 30 people perhaps. But right now we grew up to over 800, almost 1,000 people. So, and it's just in a matter of the growth happened in the latter part in the recent years, I guess, in the last 5, 10 years. So you can imagine from there that the market is really growing.
And I agree with you. We all saw the evolution, right, of the maturity, the talent in the Philippines as it relates to, you know, technology and being able to really address the current needs of our clients. So I think that's also one thing that our audience would like to hear from both of you in terms of this very timely topic on data science and analytics. I know both of your companies may have talent within your teams. Can you describe that talent pool in the Philippines? How is the DSA talent, and how are we preparing the workforce to adapt to the fourth industrial revolution? Maybe you start with you, Jim.
Sure. Actually, that is going to be business as usual in the future. You know, data lakes and how that gets managed is just, frankly, just a normal evolution. We can always have better resources, and we need more of them. Very quickly, put this into perspective, this isn't just about healthcare. This is a bigger problem that we frankly are having to come up with a new relationship to all the resources in the world. Healthcare is just one of them. Therefore, you know, it's clean water, it's air, it's all of those sustainable development issues. But focusing on healthcare, without technology, without AI, we're not going to be able to leverage the solutions to move the needle. So it's a given that we need to adopt these. It's not a matter of, you know, if, it's just a matter of when. And sometimes that's bringing the customer along the journey. The customers are sometimes not particularly ready to take their current state and, you know, dramatically change it. So we need to evolve more capabilities in the Philippines, but also be aware that the clients we're trying to introduce these solutions to are sometimes a little bit, you know, they're not willing to take leading edge solutions. So we need to bring something, we need to bridge that gap. And very frankly, the Philippines has excelled at that over time, taking legacy issues, working with them, and then introducing technology at a level that the client can accept.
Thank you, Jim. And to your point, it goes without saying, we have to evolve. We have to evolve.
Yes.
Vince, you want to add to that?
Yeah, okay. Talent pool in the Philippines is rich, okay? And then right now there are courses related to data science and analytics. It's there, already there. But also the companies, like our company, for example, we have our own internal training center, and we have introduced this new training as well on data science and analytics. It's because we have seen, our marketing and sales team have seen that this is the trend of the future. So this is growing. This is growing in number. This is growing in quality. And there's a very broad spectrum of solutions and services that we can offer. Now you're talking about predictive analytics. Well, it's in the past years and the last few years, it's still in its infancy, perhaps. But right now, new technologies are being developed. And even as we speak, there's even in the COVID-19 pandemic, you have seen how technology has worked for that, right? So it's growing. It's actually evolving. And what's good is the analytics, well, IT in particular, is actually a tool for management to make these decisions, insights or educated decisions, intelligent decisions. And that's where analytics would really come in. The insights coming from analytics would give management the right perspective to decide on which way to go. So to your point, predictive analytics, it may still be not yet fully matured as of this time, but it will be there. Jim already pointed this out as well. So I guess that's where we're going, not only on operational efficiencies, but also in terms of predicting what could happen next, so that we would be prepared and be able to address the risks before they even happen.
Thank you, Vince. And probably just sharing, since I'm also part of the Analytics Association in the Philippines, we're actually working with the government to and the schools and institutions to establish the right skill sets that we need to evolve the data science and analytics talent in the Philippines. So yeah, very much related to how the industry is evolving. We need to evolve the talent as well. So I think we have just a couple of more minutes, and I don't want to end our panel discussion without asking Vam's question. There was a specific question for Jim. If you can share some of your biggest challenges that you have encountered, if there are any business-wise, over the 25 years of ADEC innovations in the Philippines.
Oh my. I would say one of the biggest challenges is that when we started 25 years ago, it sounds a long time, but there were other competitors, other countries that had the best brochures, had the best presentations, had unbelievable, we can do it all. And the Philippines, to be very frank, we didn't have those brochures. We were kind of a best kept secret. And the people who operated in the Philippines did very well for a very long time. Actually, outsourcing has been in some shape or fashion been with us forever. Citibank, AIG, many aspects of outsourcing was done here. So corporations knew the capability, but one of the bigger challenges was being able to put the Philippine capability on the world stage. And even today, I still think we underplay the key. Now, the world has found a pathway to our door, but they still don't see the greater possibilities that they're still being sort of, their eyes light up with maybe some of the other countries, brochures, frankly, but their delivery falls short, and the long-term partnership mentality that the Philippines comes at things with, is really where once you can get a customer to set up a shared service or a captive or engage with a third party, they're here. They stay in the Philippines forever because they see the resources, they see the value proposition. So some of the biggest challenges is we've been on that journey trying to show the capability, and in some cases we would end up just building or buying our own front end in the front market of the countries where we operate to make sure that we could send that message that we had the full service offering. So those are some challenges, and I think we're still trying to figure out how we can be part of the bigger solution.
Thank you very much, Jim, and thank you for being a very big advocate of Filipinos. So we really appreciate your support. And I think that's the only time we have for our panel discussion. But this is just the first part. I would like to thank Vince and Jim for sharing their knowledge and their insights regarding our capabilities to support and provide innovative healthcare IT solutions to our clients. Let us know if you have further questions, and we'll be glad to respond to them offline. For now, let me turn you back over to Prab for our next segment. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Carlo, and thank you very much to our panelists. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to proceed to our next presenter. So our next presenter is the president of the Philippine Clinical Research Professionals Incorporated and the general manager of Pivot, a contract research organization. He started around 20 years ago in the drug and device trial industry as a clinical research associate, managing trials in hypertension, hepatitis, diabetes, glaucoma, and ovarian cancer in various hospitals across the country. He later transitioned into business development and operations management. He's a strong advocate of making the country a top destination for pharmaceutical companies in the conduct of trials. He graduated with a degree in microbiology from the University of Santo Tomas. So ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the overview of the Philippine clinical research, pharma and life sciences, and which of these services are expected to grow in the Philippines, given the global demand for clinical studies as fueled by the COVID-19 pandemic, let's all welcome Mr. Rodmar Pulido.
Thank you. Good day to everyone. So I'll share my screen, right? Yeah. Sorry. All right. Good day to everyone. So I'm here to present to you the clinical research landscape in the Philippines. First, I would like to present to you our organization. Our organization is PCRP, or Philippine Clinical Research Professionals. We are a group of individuals, or clinical research professionals, if you will, who actually, a majority of us are what we call as monitors or clinical research associates. And what we do is we monitor clinical trials. Several of our members, as a testimony of our work and our professionalism, several of our members are actually now employed in the US, in Europe, in China, and in Australia. So I come from a 100% Filipino-owned contract research organization that is backed up by one of the largest conglomerates in the Philippines. And I'll talk more about what we do later. So we have a very young population, and we're around 13th in terms of size in globally. We have a huge population growth compared to our neighbors. What does this mean? If you want a clinical trial with a young population, then the Philippines is one of your destinations. And if you want a clinical trial involving pediatric patients, then the Philippines is one of your best bets to do your clinical trials. So in terms of, to be able to understand the healthcare portfolio of the Philippines, a majority of our healthcare is out of the pocket, meaning a lot of Filipinos still spend much on their healthcare based from their personal income. So what does this mean for clinical trials? So this means that there is potentially a treatment-naive population in the Philippines, wherein a lot of patients have not yet experienced a lot of the drugs that are taken by individuals in most advanced countries. And some of these patients are good patients for clinical trials. And on the right side is the mortality data for the Philippines. And if you look closely later on my other slides, it will mirror the type of clinical trials that we do in the Philippines. So we have neoplasms, heart diseases, respiratory diseases, and diabetes. So we go now to one of the best slides here. What are the services do companies involved in clinical research in the Philippines have? So we start with preclinical. We don't have a strong preclinical service offerings in the Philippines, but I do know of one company that exports Philippine macaque monkeys for academic research centers abroad, but it is a bit controversial, so I will not discuss much on that. What I did not discuss here is that we also have a strong academic research sector in the Philippines, and a lot of our academic research centers are actually involved in national products research. Also, we have several hospitals in the Philippines that do stem cell research and do stem cell services. I'm sorry, this is not on my slide. Now we go to clinical trials. So we do phase 1 trials in the Philippines, but a majority of these phase 1 trials are done on biosimilars. Most of these biosimilars are on vaccines and on monoclonal antibodies. So what services do we do for phase 1 trials in the Philippines? We do monitoring, data management, statistics, pharmacovigilance, and logistics. A majority of the trials that are performed in the Philippines are actually phase 2 and 3 trials. And again, we do monitoring, data management, statistics, pharmacovigilance, and logistics services for those trials. We also do a lot of trials after registration, and they're called phase 4 studies. For examples of these studies would be real-world evidence studies, and we also have what we call as post-marketing surveillance studies. And again, we do the same service. We provide the same service as we do for phase 1, phase 2, and 3 trials. So I think the question here is, are the services that we do here are only for clinical trials done in the Philippines? Do we service clinical trials done outside of the Philippines? Yes, we do. A majority of those services that is done for overseas trials would be data management, statistics, and pharmacovigilance. In terms of monitoring, our monitors are actually capable of monitoring projects outside of the Philippines, and that has been done in the past because of our English proficiency. We have monitors in the Philippines who have monitored clinical trials in Australia and even in Korea. Okay, so others would be, we do have BAB centers in the Philippines, and they cover generics of BAB, bioequivalence and bioavailability. There are around 2 or 3 companies into that. And we do have a lot of companies that are involved in pharmacovigilance of drugs, devices, cosmetics for marketed products. And we do a lot of medical writing, for example, literature reviews, medical evaluation reports, and products of local opportunity studies. Okay, I'm now just focusing, as you can see, I'm just focusing on contract research organizations or companies that are involved in monitoring, data management, and a bit of pharmacovigilance, but mostly on monitoring. In the Philippines, companies or CROs involved in monitoring of clinical trials have to be licensed by the Philippine FDA. So we have around 15 of these companies, very few local. There are around 2 local CROs that are prominent, including us. And then we have a majority of them are actually multinational CROs. If you're a sponsor and you don't want to outsource if you're a pharma company, a biotech company, you don't want to outsource your management of a clinical trial in the Philippines, then you need to register in the Philippines. We have at least 14 pharmaceutical and biotech companies that are registered. So we have a good number of investigators. We have 1,000 of them. We have around 46 hospitals that can actually do your clinical trials. And we have more hospitals if you want to go into non-interventional trials. So we have around 150 of us that are monitors. I don't have the number for data management, for pharmacovigilance, for medical writers. So that is something I do have an estimate which I can give you later. So these are the companies involved in monitoring in the Philippines, or contract research organizations as we call them. A majority of these companies are actually multinational companies with affiliates in the Philippines, and we have the top 10 CROs globally are in the Philippines. We also have two local companies here. One is our company, Pivot, and the other is Rainier. So a majority of the clinical trials that are conducted in the Philippines, and a majority of the trials that we have monitored and managed, are phase 3 trials. Phase 3 trials are what we call as pivotal trials, because these are the trials that the FDAs globally will look at and make a decision whether a drug, a device can actually be marketed. We also have a significant number of phase 2 studies done in the Philippines, as well as phase 4 studies. Again, the number here is cumulative. As a testament to the quality of trials that are done in the Philippines, we have had 11 US FDA inspections so far, and also inspections done by other regulatory agencies, such as those coming from Europe, from Korea, from Japan, and from Taiwan. If you look at the type of therapeutic areas that are done in the Philippines, the trials revolve around, a lot of them revolve around rheumatology, drugs that are tested against, for example, rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus, for example. And then you have the second would be, in close second would be oncology. Then you have infectious diseases. Then you have vaccines. I would just like to, if you look at the type of therapeutic areas that are done in the Philippines, this will mirror the mortality data that I've shown you earlier. I would just like to highlight on a bit on vaccines, because we, as before COVID, a lot of the vaccine studies have been done in the Philippines, and our investigators, or doctors who manage these trials, have managed to recruit thousands of patients for vaccines trials. So we have currently, if you're interested, we have currently 12 COVID trials, and this is a mix of trials on vaccines, on treatment. A lot of the treatment trials are on monoclonal antibodies, and the Philippines has participated in the WHO-sponsored trial on treatment, and we are going to initiate the WHO trial on vaccines, hopefully this year. Again, a lot of the trials that are conducted in the Philippines are sponsored by global pharmaceutical companies based in the US and based in the Europe. If you look here, basically the top 10 pharma in the Philippines and globally have conducted their trials in the Philippines. So there are, of course, some regulatory considerations before you start your study, meaning all trials in the Philippines have to be approved by the Philippine FDA. And there are differences in terms of the approval process per country. In the Philippines, what happens is you can submit your trial for approval and review by the Philippine FDA at the same time with the individual hospitals where you plan to do your trials. And overall, it takes around 60 days to start your study. So we have, like I said, you have 43 hospitals that you can conduct your trials with. And what I'm showing you here is actually one of our best hospitals in the Philippines. Some of them, for our US clients, I think you're well aware of JCI, Joint Commissions International. Some of them have a JCI accreditation. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. Carlo?
Thank you very much, Mr. Pulido, for that very informative talk. Now,
Well,
joining us to provide her personal testimonial on how pharma and life sciences business have progressed in the Philippines using local talents, she's currently the senior advisor of Point West Technologies Corporation. Guests and participants, let's all welcome Ms. Maria Cristina Beng Galang Coronel. Ms. Beng, I think you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so happy to be here and honored to be one of the speakers in this webinar. So as we have, well, to give everyone a perspective of our industry, we have always stated that there are three segments. So we have the healthcare provider, healthcare payer, and the final leg is the pharmaceuticals and life sciences. So the first webinar that we had 3 weeks ago touched on RCM, which is revenue cycle management, which is part of the healthcare provider services. Earlier on, Vince talked about the IT side. And then, of course, Rodmar had a very interesting informative session on clinical research and clinical trials, so which is under the pharmaceuticals, life sciences segment of healthcare. So I shall briefly discuss our experience in providing BPO services more on the pharmacy benefit management, which is actually a mashup of healthcare payer and pharmaceutical segment. Okay, so let me first share my screen. Okay, so I guess in all of the sessions I've had a chance to speak on, I have been promoting the industry. So this time around, I will talk about the Point West experience. So, but let me first have a quick intro on Point West. So it's a 100% Filipino-owned IT BPM services company that has been providing 18 years of service excellence in application management as well as business process management to clients based not only in the US but also Asia Pacific region. While Point West has been known as a technology company and has been providing modernized IT services and digital services, it has actually ventured into business process outsourcing, primarily focused on the healthcare domain earlier on in its life. So healthcare has always been a domain focus since we have always believed that this particular pillar will continue to sustain its growth. So we have a good track record on healthcare applications that we have developed and maintained for our clients in the Philippines and in the US. But this morning, I would like to focus on our track record on the healthcare BPO service. So where we provide both clinical and non-clinical services to pharmacy benefit management companies in the US. Okay. We don't have PBMs here in the Philippines, but in the US, the pharmacy benefit management companies collectively bring in over $350 billion in revenues each year. There are several PBMs in the US, but the top three accounts for 76% of the total market share, with the next three PBMs rounding up a total coverage of about 96%. So when you talk about the top three accounts, so you have Optum, which is actually present here in the Philippines. You have CVS Health, as well as Express Scripts. But what exactly is the business of PBM? So we can actually look at PBM as somewhat like a middleman dealing with insurance companies as well as pharmacies and drug manufacturers. So They are third-party administrators of prescription drug programs for insurance companies, and which can either be commercial, self-insured, or government health plans. So PBMs are primarily responsible for developing and maintaining the formulary, which is actually the list of specific drugs that will be covered by your health plans. They contract with pharmacies that will actually dispense the drugs to the consumers, and negotiates discounts and rebates with drug manufacturers, especially since they talk about volume, the bulk orders, and they process and pay the prescription drug claims. The main goal, of course, of PBMs is really to promote the cost-effective drugs without diminishing the quality of care. And they do this by lining up several strategies in coming up with a proposed benefit plan to its clients. So they structure the benefit plans so that it becomes cost efficient to the insurance company, but at the same time, without affecting the quality of care. So the PBMs structure the drug benefits with specific drugs included in their formulary. So drugs which do not appear in the formulary are actually paid in full by the consumer. So it's important that you have these drugs in your formulary. To get drugs listed in the formulary, of course, the manufacturers usually are required to pay the PBM a manufacturer's rebate. So that's where the monies come in for the PBMs. It lowers the net price of the drug while keeping the list price the same. So they also promote the use of generics. Of course, the generics would be less costly, but they contain the same active ingredient as the branded ones as judged by the FDA. They also embed clinical rules into the application to allow drug utilization review prior to dispensing the drugs at the pharmacy. So PBM also limits and tags certain drugs requiring prior authorization. So these are some of the strategies that PBMs implement to improve their profitability without diminishing the quality of care being provided. And necessarily, these are the same strategies that have to be known to us so that we can implement such in the different health plans that we set up. So right now, as we support our PBM clients, we necessarily need to be knowledgeable in their business so we can lay out the processes needed to produce the required outcomes. We handle the benefit plan setup for each of their clients. We cover the benefit plan enrollment, the formulary management, clinical rules integration, benefit plan testing, claims management, and consumer-driven health plans. So, but looking at this particular service, it comes up as a puzzle to a lot. We're dealing with PBMs when in fact we don't have PBMs here in the Philippines. So point was actually, we were fortunate to have partners and clients that were willing to train us right from the start. So Point was started out with a small team composed of a manager, a licensed pharmacist, and data analyst. So less than 10, a team of less than 10. So the client was willing to brief us on their business as well as its business rules, train our team on functions and processes, starting with the simple ones. And then the team grew as the transition functions increased with each successful delivery of outcomes. So this allowed us to establish the type of resources and the skills needed. We needed to engineer the process to create an efficient workflow and integrated automation tools to increase our productivity. So since benefit plan setup and enrollment is an annual exercise that usually happens either mid-year or end of the year, the need for resources became seasonal, with peaking happening on specific months in a year. So this is actually one of the compelling reasons for the PBM's decision to outsource. They didn't have to worry about hiring, training, releasing resources based on seasonal requirements, because typically you need to add about 30% or 30 to 40% more resources when it's peak season. Well, apart from the challenges in resources administration, of course, the need to provide the corresponding infrastructure, office space, equipment, which further complicates the seasonal requirement. And with the trend of having mergers and acquisitions amongst the PBMs, because size is might, you have better negotiating power if you have the volumes. And apart from that, there's also the vertical integration with insurance companies as well as with pharmacies. So we expect the volumes of work to increase. So key to being effective and efficient at delivering the services is being able to slice and dice the processes to match the resources with the skills and knowledge needed by each process, and to engineer the entire workflow with specific checkpoints that will allow metrics collection for further analysis and evaluation. We had to classify which processes or tasks require clinical knowledge, so we can assign the licensed pharmacists and nurses to this particular task. And then for the non-clinical tasks, we assign the data analysts, which would have a lower cost structure. So we group them into pods with leads to assist in the distribution of work, as well as to support the members in responding to requests and issues. So all this had contributed to the very acceptable turnaround time and quality to process various cases. And so our clients are very happy. So recognizing the need to scale the business, because this has always been an issue, no? You need to scale the business. We had to ensure that we have our growth engines well oiled. So we make sure that the client engagement models are aligned with clients' preferences. So there's flexibility, and so you're able to align it with what they need and with what they prefer. You also have to make sure that the processes, technology, and tools are constantly reviewed and upgraded with innovations. And of course, risk management and business continuity. This has to be well documented and regularly reviewed. And proof of that is when the pandemic came in, of course, our company had 100% work from home model execution a day after. So that made our clients very happy because productivity increased without affecting the quality of our outcomes and deliverables. We also needed, well, the infrastructure and facilities. They have to be secure and had always been regularly audited by third-party auditors, as well as representatives from our clients. And finally, the most important growth engine is on talent recruitment, learning, development, and management. I guess what's important in this particular area is having all the levels and all the types of skills, because in a particular engagement, BPO engagement with healthcare, you have to have both the clinical practitioners as well as the technology specialists. But apart from that, of course, the management expertise, management as well as supervisory skills would have to be in there so that you're able to grow your particular business. And I think the same is was actually stated by Jim in the previous session. So having all those levels in place actually help you out in terms of growing your business. So how do we see our future BPO engagement? So what do we see out there? So we see our BPO services to be complemented by our IT solutions by employing digital technologies such as RPA or robotics process automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and analytics. we see process improvements and optimizations that will provide additional benefits to our customers. So there, I now end my talk and will be open to answer any of your questions since my time is up. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cornell, for that very enlightening testimonial. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for our second panel discussion. So to moderate our discussion, let's all welcome back our moderator, Mr. Carlo Panti.
Thank you, Prab. And that was another insightful set of presentations from two reputable experts in clinical research and IT, BPO, particularly the example you gave, Ms. Beng, pharmacy benefit management. So Rod gave you a good glimpse of the clinical research landscape in the Philippines and how it's being done here, the presence of global and local players in the market, and the presence of the biggest pharma companies in the world. 12 COVID-19 trials are being done in the Philippines, according to Rod. And Ms. Beng, on the other hand, showcased how she grew Point West to be one of the leading local Filipino-owned IT BPM companies in the region. She also detailed what they do in the pharmacy benefit management. So similar to our first panel, feel free to interact with us using the Q&A interface to ask your questions. So calling back Rodin and Beng for a dialogue regarding this very important topic of CROs and PMBs. Ms. Beng, you're a pioneer of the industry, and actually I'd really like to ask how you managed to grow Point West, not just Point West, but actually an entire industry, being one of the leaders in the HIMAP Board of Trustees over the years. Maybe you can share that journey where you really helped propel the region to be a big.
Yeah, actually, when we started Point West, it was obvious to us that we cannot sell our services if we don't sell our country and our industry first. Okay, if Philippines is not known in the other countries where you're targeting, well, it's difficult for them to trust in terms of sending their work to you. So that's one, and that's why we had to work with the government and making sure that all of those parameters and key factors in making a decision to outsource are all well taken care of. So that's one. Second, in terms of the industry, and that's why I really joined PSIA, I joined HIMAP, so that we can rally the industry, so that we can grow and be a formidable competitor to some of the larger countries into outsourcing. And so, and that's why we established leadership in all this. And basically, we have also worked on the educational system, okay, through the CHED, TESDA, and also, of course, support from the ICT in terms of making sure that all things are covered. Infrastructure, particularly, since that is key to outsourcing. No? So all of these elements we try to cover. So it's not being, it's not having simply a selfish motive right from the start, but really making sure that the greater good, again, the words of Jim, the greater good of the country prevails. And you cannot be a strong player in a weak industry and country. So, and that's always the battle cry. Together, we really have to make sure that we rise as one. Okay, so that's my piece.
Player in this industry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't realize I was on mute earlier, but thank you for sharing that, Ms. Beng, and how you really saw the evolution, right, of the industry here in the country, and really the Point West has been one of the leaders in pushing our efforts, so we get known in the market in the US and in the other regions. So you mentioned about your plans to further evolve the solutions being provided by Point West, but can you also share about your plans in terms of this year and moving to the next year? What are your growth projections?
Okay.
And later, Rodmar, if you can also talk about that in terms of the CRO growth projections.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Beck?
Yeah, for the industry, I know that the past year, I think we had just single-digit growth, but I feel very positive that we should be seeing double-digit growth, at least 10%, at least 10%. And I think we are one of the industry segments where the pandemic has not really dampened the growth of the sector, no? And in fact, we're seeing some positive developments in our industry. At Point West, we expect, well, first of all, the work from home model would still stay, not until we are certain that everyone is safe and secure, because safety of our employees are primary. We cannot risk their safety, so we always make sure that they are able to work from home if they prefer. But of course, the offices at the UP Ayala Techno Hub is always open should you have problems seeking your own time at home, because I'm sure you're competing with all the other house members, the kids using the infrastructure for distance learning, while the other members are also working from home. So we also offer that particular site so that you can be working at the office when you need to. In terms of growth, healthcare has been a focus domain for us at Point West. No? We think that that would really grow and really build up our expertise, not just on the BPO side, but having a complemented IT BPM service for the healthcare sector, because I think that's where our advantages will come in. No? Knowing both the domain as well as the technology and integrating it will render a complete end-to-end solution complemented with a full complementation. So that's Point West as well as the industry.
Looking forward to your success, Ms. Beng, and thank you for sharing that about the whole HIMS industry and Point West. Rodmar, can you share the same projections if you have for the CRO industry this time?
Okay, this is my personal view. There's no market data. I think you're aware of that. Yeah. So if I'm talking about clinical trials going in the Philippines, there's a huge competition among different countries. We compete with our neighbors. We compete with, for example, Eastern Europe countries. We compete with Brazil. But I'm very bullish because there's a surge of drug development and vaccine development for COVID. And we have a lot of trials that will be coming out because of that. And I think the Philippines can benefit from that. The other thing is there will be a surge, in my opinion, there will be a surge in pharmacovigilance because of this drug development that's been, there will be more COVID drugs that will come out in the market and drugs that will be in trials. And I see a surge in pharmacovigilance. And I think the Philippines is in a good position to tap that market because we have a huge, as you know, we have a huge number of health professional graduates. We have pharmacists. We have a lot of nurses who can do pharmacovigilance. Yeah. So basically, that's my view.
Yeah.
Carlo. Yeah. I think you know that's well coming from the biggest CRO.
Yeah, actually, I'm not at the liberty to provide more details, but what I can tell you, and you mentioned this earlier, where you gave good examples about clinical trials being done in the Philippines, but there are clinical trials being done in other countries where the data is being processed here, and we have a big team. We have 2,000 team members providing support to 70 plus countries around the world. So it's, to your point, it's a very evolved, very mature market that we're playing in already. I think we have a few more minutes left for our panel, unfortunately. So maybe I will ask this question about the talent pool you mentioned, Rodmar, in terms of I think Jim also shared this earlier in his presentation about the big number of healthcare, nursing, pharma graduates that we have. But what are we doing as an industry to further improve this talent? Because the needs of the industry, it's evolving. We can't just rely on the output per se of the schools and hire them right away. We of course have programs to improve this further and get them ready, so to speak, for what they will do for the CRO and for the HIMS industry. So yeah, for Rod and Miss Beng, in terms of improving our talent pool.
Would you want me to answer first?
Yes, yes, Miss Beng.
Yeah, actually, HIMAP had this program wherein we were working on the curriculum of nursing, so that we can include nursing informatics as one of the key subjects. And we actually, I think that was 2017, if I'm not mistaken, where we submitted it to CHED so that it can be part of the curriculum, because yeah, nurses have to know all of these things about informatics, because that's the new type of services that reading diagnostics and all those stuff, they have to learn, they have to know about all of these things. No? So that's one. Second is, I guess, from all fronts, like DICT has also sponsored some programs, learning programs, so that we can look at the skills that we really need more, and try to promote this particular training, so that we can have more more resources for our industry. TESDA is also doing the same thing on medical billing and coding. So from all fronts, I think they are helping us out in terms of making sure that the resources are available when the demand comes in. Rod, yeah.
Yeah, we have many life science and health professional graduates, but the problem is they don't know that this career path exists for them. So what we do in PCRP and in some of the companies that we work with is to partner with pharma. I think we're partnering with pharmacy schools, because part of their internship programs is now geared towards clinical research, and we're happy with pharma schools for having that.
Maybe Rod can include that in one of the programs under the DICT learning sessions. Yeah. Yeah. So
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, for that suggestion.
Include that. Yeah. Nice to know that you have those types of programs. And by the way, Carter here is part of the Capability Development Committee of HIMAP. So I think your point was taken well. So he'll make sure. Right, Carlo?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you, Carlo. Yeah.
Absolutely, Ms. Beng. Thank you for sharing that, Ms. Beng and Rodmar, and very important. I'm sure it'll give more confidence to the audience, to our prospective clients, as they think about setting up shop here. So we're at the end of the session. I would like to thank Ms. Beng and Rodmar for sharing their expertise and extensive experience regarding our capabilities to support clinical research processes and IT-related support, pharmacy benefit management, as an example to our clients. So, Ms. Beng and Rodmar, if you have a few messages that you would like to share to the audience.
Yeah, I failed to also include in my presentation, on working on the demand side. Okay, we've talked about capability development, that's on the talent side. But of course, the talent will be useless if there's no demand coming in. And that's where I guess the main challenge of a lot of our companies are at. So, and that's where our different trade officers, so that's where the government comes in terms of making sure that our trade offices in various parts of the city, and I'm sure, in our previous session or HIMSCon, we had all the trade officers from the United States, from Los Angeles, Silicon Valley, New York, Washington, where they have always been helping us in terms of spreading the good news about our industry, about our capabilities. And in fact, they have always done a lot of sessions, webinars, and trade missions as well. So they are our valuable partners in terms of expanding our marketing reach, because marketing is certainly an expensive activity, and not all companies, as you very well know, most of the companies at HIMAP, majority are SMEs. So marketing is a major challenge, and that's where the government can help us, especially the trade officers. And I'm sure right now we have, I'm looking at our attendees, and I think, yeah, we have from the Silicon Valley, LA, and also helping us out or listening right now. So they are our real partners in terms of spreading the good news to the various cities. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Beng, and definitely we need your help to advocate for the Philippines. Sir Rodmar, any last messages that you want to share to the audience?
Yeah, if you want your research to be done in the Philippines, or if you want people supporting your research whenever they're conducted globally, the Philippines is your best bet. And lastly, if you have any questions on clinical trials, any misconceptions, if you have been invited to join a clinical trial locally, please feel free to contact our organization, PCRP, www.pcrp.org.ph. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rod. And let us know if you have further questions related to everything we discussed today, and we'll be glad to respond to them offline. Okay, for now, let me turn you back over to Prab to introduce Sarah for our closing remarks.
Thank you once again to our moderator, Carlo, and Ms. Beng and Rod for that very informative second panel. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost done with our program for today. And after all the presentations and discussions earlier, it's now time to synthesize and to find out what we've learned. So to give our closing remarks, and again, once again, to synthesize, let's all call back Asia's Chief of Staff for Alorica, Ms. Sarah Maconde Silva.
Thanks, Prob. So I'll wrap this up, and I'll do my best to make it short and sweet and with everything that I actually captured today. So, we started our day with a message from our DICT director, Emilou Delphin, who spoke of their focus on upskilling and reskilling for our industry and DICT's continuous support to really produce relevant programs and initiatives with HIMAP. You heard Jim Donovan's testimony to reinforce just how well the Philippine government and private sectors really work together. Then we had Vince, who spoke to the evolution of IT and healthcare. We have our Philippines HIMS value proposition on tech services and the solutions portfolio and the full suite of services. Vince had actually had cases that were implemented, such as collaboration platforms with AWS's cloud-based platforms, mobile cloud-based apps that have proven to show efficiency gains from implementation to showcase really the capabilities and, more importantly, that we can execute. So for our first testimony, I loved how the CEO of ADEC Innovations, Jim Donovan, started off with how Philippines goes above and beyond when it comes to care outside the suite of services. Personally hearing that, that from a global organization, we had, they see and feel just how much the Filipino talent pours out their heart into the work that we do, which really seals why we do what we do. ADEC being a Philippine-born company, expanding to 16 countries, and again, really emphasizing that it started in the Philippines, how ADEC became successful because of how they leverage the talent. So value proposition with 40% labor cost reduction, but with phenomenal performance across the board. So their leading delivery centers are out of the Philippines. Jim, said it best. It's really the people, a workforce that's passionate. The demographics that you have, they're young, highly motivated, highly skilled, willing to work, folks who are really familiar with today's technology. And then we went into the clinical research services in the Philippines. We have the strong academic research in the Philippines and the clinical trials we support and we perform. Rodmar Pulido also expanded on the CRO landscape by showcasing the stakeholders in the local space that cater to the healthcare clinical work types. And it's really great to see how involved the Philippines is with the global regulatory agencies across various therapeutic areas. Then we had Bang, who gave her testimony for Point West. And, Bang being an advocate for the industry and rallying for the Philippines and the services for the industry since the industry was actually born. So, Point West being 18 years old, a Filipino company having healthcare as a domain focus, and really a proven track record in healthcare BPO for clinical and non-clinical services provided for the US. So looking at Point West's PBM capabilities to provide full suite of services from benefit plan setup to the workflow management tools and what they can automate. So one of the points Bang brought up that is, their support for pharmacy benefits management for an area where, we did, here in the Philippines where we don't do PBM. And she points out that we're trainable, we can embrace the knowledge, and we can further that by continuing to learn your business and getting to the point where we become thought leaders for you and re-engineering your workflow to optimize efficiencies, which ultimately benefits not only cost savings, but your customer satisfaction. So today's message is loud and clear. The talent, the capabilities, knowing that we can execute gives you endless possibilities when you choose to do business in the Philippines. We want to thank our speakers and our moderators for today's session and making a very insightful session that our participants have so much to walk away with. The fact that we went over time only goes to show that we could go on forever about why the Philippines. But we also want to thank the HIMAP committee members and secretariat that made today's session happen. And of course, DICT for being our co-presenter and continuing to partner with us to advocate how great the Philippines is. So please reach out to HIMAP or the Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines and let us know how we can help you. We'd love to know your concerns and address them. We'd love to answer questions that you have about healthcare support out in the Philippines. But that's really it for today. Again, message is loud and clear. This wraps up the second part of our webinar series for the Global HIMS powered by PH. So stay safe, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you in the many initiatives HIMAP has slated for 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, Sarah. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our program today. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in future events from HIMAP. And for further inquiries, email address is info@himap.ph, and visit our website at himap.ph as well. And please follow our Facebook account at Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines. LinkedIn, once again, it's Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, or call us up at the numbers below. Thank you once again for joining, and keep safe and take care. Bye-bye.